Imagine a girl out in the forest, camera in hand, looking to capture some stunning nature photos. Suddenly, she spots a strange bird perched high in a tree. Driven by curiosity, she moves closer, eager to learn more. But as she gets near, a piercing, unbearable sound fills the air, making her lose consciousness. What could this terrifying noise be, and how could it knock someone out? Is there a deadly bird behind it? So many questions are left unanswered. Keep watching to uncover the mystery and find out what really happened. The story begins with Hazel, a curious woman who loves exploring. Today, she was wandering through a quiet, dense forest, her camera hanging from her shoulder as she enjoyed the peaceful sounds of nature. Suddenly, a strange noise startled her. It was a familiar sound, but she couldn't quite place it, sending shivers down her spine. Hazel stopped and looked around, trying to find the source. Her eyes landed on something unusual perched high in a tree. It looked like a bird, but not one she had ever seen before. As Hazel approached, the strange sound got louder, turning into a sharp, high-pitched whine that made her ears hurt. She squinted to see the bird more clearly, but the noise just got worse with each step she took. It was so piercing it felt like it might burst her eardrums. Despite the growing pain, Hazel's curiosity pushed her closer. She had to find out what this weird bird was. But as the noise reached a painful peak, Hazel couldn't handle it anymore. The pain became too much, and she screamed, collapsing to the ground as darkness took over. When she woke up, the bird was gone, and the awful noise had stopped. Hazel sat up slowly, her head throbbing from the experience. She felt dizzy and sore, and soon realized her camera was broken, likely from when she had fallen. As the daylight faded and shadows stretched across the forest, Hazel knew she had to leave. She struggled to her feet and made her way home. That night, sleep wouldn't come. The memory of the strange bird, the pain in her ears, and the sudden blackout haunted her. She needed answers but didn't know where to start. The next morning, Hazel called her friend Amelia and told her everything. As Hazel spoke, Amelia's face turned pale, and fear was clear in her eyes. Amelia expressed her reluctance to go back, her voice filled with nervousness. But Hazel's determination was unwavering, her curiosity consuming her. Reluctantly, Amelia agreed to help but insisted on speaking to some locals first, hoping to gather more information. Maybe someone would know about the strange bird Hazel had seen. The two friends made their way to town, where they approached several older residents, hoping to gain some insight. However, everyone they asked reacted with the same fear. One elderly woman, after hearing Hazel's story, shook her head and walked away without saying a word. The reaction was unsettling, and Amelia's fear deepened. However, Hazel refused to let it go. Something about this bird wasn't right, and she needed to know what. Before returning to the forest, Amelia insisted they buy earplugs to protect themselves from the bird's piercing noise. Hazel agreed, feeling more prepared this time. They set off into the woods, following Hazel's memory of where she had first encountered the bird. As they went deeper, Amelia mentioned something unusual. She said she'd heard the area was restricted, though they hadn't seen any signs about it. Hazel shrugged off the concern, noting that she hadn't seen any signs either, despite her many visits to the forest. Soon, they reached the spot. Hazel's heart raced as she spotted the tree where she had first seen the bird. But as she stepped forward, her foot caught on something hidden on the ground. She had tangled in a wire. Amelia rushed to help, and as they worked to free Hazel, both froze. The bird was there again, silently perched in the tree, watching them closely. Without warning, the awful sound blared again, cutting through their ears like a knife. Even with the earplugs, the noise was unbearable. Amelia's face contorted with pain, and before Hazel could react, she turned and ran, leaving Hazel by herself. Hazel tried desperately to block out the sound, clutching her head in agony, but the noise grew too intense, and she collapsed to her knees. Even though she pushed the earplugs in as deep as she could, the piercing sound still reached her. As Hazel lay there, struggling to stay conscious, Amelia had already raced back to town, breathless and frantic. She hurried to Ranger Mark, telling him everything about Hazel, the bird, and the excruciating noise. At first, Mark seemed doubtful, but after Amelia begged him to help, he agreed reluctantly. There was something strange about him, though. As they headed back to the forest, Mark seemed to know exactly where to go without any directions. Amelia noticed this but stayed silent, her heart racing with worry. Upon arriving, they found Hazel missing. Mark didn't look surprised, which only made Amelia more suspicious. As she scanned the area, her eyes caught something strange, wires crisscrossing through the underbrush, clearly set up to trip people. Following the wires, Amelia noticed a camera mounted on a tree, aimed directly at the bird. Amelia's voice shook as she asked Mark what was going on, her anxiety growing. Mark remained calm, brushing off her questions and saying the cameras were for wildlife monitoring. But Amelia didn't buy it. Determined to get answers, she moved closer to the bird. Before she could get near, Mark suddenly lunged at her, grabbing her arm and pulling her back. Without a second thought, Amelia broke free and ran, her mind racing with fear. She needed help, but panic clouded her judgment. As she fled, she tripped over a branch and fell hard. Struggling to get up, she was startled by the sound of barking. 2 large German shepherds were charging toward her. Before she could react, a voice called out, and the dogs stopped in their tracks. A man in uniform, accompanied by Mark, approached Amelia and told her to follow them. Scared and unsure, Amelia did as she was told. As they walked, Amelia's stomach knotted with fear. They were heading toward a hidden military compound deep in the forest. Her mind raced with questions, but nothing prepared her for what she saw next. Hazel, sitting calmly and getting medical help from a nurse. A wave of relief washed over Amelia as she saw Hazel was safe. Though Hazel looked tired and weak, she gave Amelia a small, reassuring smile. The immediate danger had passed, but the mystery remained. Henry, the man in uniform, explained that the bird was no ordinary creature. It was a high-tech security system meant to emit sounds that could disable intruders. Amelia and Hazel had accidentally wandered into a restricted military area. Stunned by the revelation, Amelia and Hazel listened as Henry explained the seriousness of their situation. They had accidentally broken into a military area, setting off the security system. Though they were glad to be safe, the reality of their actions weighed heavily on them. Before they could leave, they were asked to sign confidentiality agreements, swearing never to talk about what happened. With a mix of relief and unease, the 2 friends walked out of the compound, feeling both shaken and wiser. Back in their everyday lives, Hazel and Amelia couldn't forget the bizarre events. They had narrowly avoided a much worse outcome, and the experience left a deep impression on them, a stark reminder of the risks that come with curiosity and exploring forbidden places. So, what are your thoughts about this heart-touching story? Share your opinions in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on our new animal stories. Your support means the world to us.